1 May 2024. Sandra, will you please do roll call? Go around the room and we do roll call for half safety.
I don't know what you want me to.
Sorry, just for example, Sandra. And then if I was doing roll call, I would say Sandra present and you'd say yes, present.
Okay, okay, then.
So that we can, so it is recorded and part of the meeting that we have all members present and then.
Recorded.
One.
Okay, all right. So I'm not part of them committee, so. definitely-
Just say Angela.
Angela,
Here.
Mark,
Here.
Larry,
You're present.
and Gemma.
Present. Sandra, can I get you to read the meeting
Yeah.
minutes from 12 March, please?
Yeah. So the Community Development Advisory Committee meeting minutes. Tuesday, March 12, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. and a hybrid meeting. Lower level conference room at 23 Union Street in Norwich, Connecticut, 06360. Angela Duhame, Gemma Fabris, Larry Rice, and Mark Mercy. No, there were no members absent, and other present were Craig Clement and Sandra Guyton Brown, the staff of the Community Development. First, the Community Development Advisory Committee was called to order at 5:35 p.m. Second, approval of minutes. Upon motion made by Mark Mercy, second by Larry Rice, the committee vote to approve the draft of the 3/5/24 meeting minutes. Motion carried unanimously. Deliberations. The CDAC carefully review and discuss each application individually and decide to grade the applicants based on their performance. Submitting, reporting, and invoicing in timely manner for the current year program. The CDAC committee voted allocated the anticipated $806,000 in funding for the program year 50, 2024-2025 as follows. Would you like me to read those as well?
Please do.
Okay.
You can just quickly touch on the name of the applicant and then the CDC recommendation.
Okay.
Really quickly, and just mention please that if they are non-public or public.
Okay.
So you're reading the city office and.
Okay, in the public. All right.
But you can sum them up.
Okay. The city's, the Community Development Office Administration was a request of $161,000 to $55,000, which was granted. The anticipated return on loan for the administration that was projected was $33,500 for a total of administration expenditures of $194,755. Under the public service, we have children in placement for which requests $30,000, and the committee recommendation was $22,000. Big Brothers Big Sisters Community and School-Based Mentoring request $15,000. The recommendation was $0 for that. Norwich Human Services, Norwich Works. The request was $95,000 and the committee recommendation was $85,000. Norwich Human Services, Norwich Housing Assistance Program request $75,000 and the recommendation was $70,000. Immigration Advocacy Support Center request $8,000. The committee recommendation was $0. TVCCA Homeless Prevention, $30,000 was the request, and the recommendation was $15,000. Madonna Place, the request was $20,000, and the committee recommendation was $15,000. Safe Future Domestic Violence Response was $15,000 as a request, and the recommendation $10,000. Martin House Housing Advocacy and Placement. The request was $25,000. The recommendation was $0. Martin House Housing. I'm sorry, I already read that one. United Way of Southeastern Connecticut Labor Food Center. request $45,000, and the recommendation was $0 for a total of public service of $217,000 as a recommendation. The non-public service, were Norwich Housing Authority for Rosewood Manor exterior renovation, request $200,000. The recommendation was $200,000. Department of Public Works, Stafford sidewalks, the request was $386, 665, and the recommendation was $0. Community development property rehabilitation, the request was $250,000 and the recommendation was $227,745 for a total of no public service of $427,745. So in total, the public service recommendation went from the request was $383,000 and the recommendation was $217,000 as a total. No public service, the request was $836,665. And the recommendation was $427,745. Community Development Administration, the request was $161,255 and the recommendation was $161,255. Total of request was $1,380,920 and the recommendation was $806,000, which was the estimated receive on allocation.
Which matches the total funding.
Yeah.
Allocated.
I got one.
Thank you so much, Sonia.
You're welcome. Do you want me to
Are
finish?
there any corrections needed?
Do you want me to continue or that's it?
Because, okay. Are there any corrections needed? If there are no corrections, the minutes stand approved. I will favor say aye.
Do you need a motion? Motion to approve the minutes?
Excuse me?
A motion to approve the minutes?
Absolutely. To approve the minutes, please.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. We'll now move to new business, specifically distribution. Recommendations provided by the director regarding the increase in CDBG allocation for fiscal year 2024. Director, could you please offer your?
Sure. I mean, last week we learned that finally HUD came out with their CDBG allocations. It's kind of delayed, but they came out and the city of Norwich got $845,890, which is an increase of $39,890. So above the figure that we were working with of $806,000. You've already talked about public services last time, and it's capped at 217,000. So I don't think the committee has to deal with that. The only thing you have to deal with in terms of this increase is whether you want to put funds in CD administration, Norwich Housing Authority's Phase 2 project at Rosewood Manor exterior renovations, or community development property rehabilitation. And I just sent out some things that you could possibly do. You could put some money into CD administration in the amount of $7,923. Rosewood is at 200,000. We could add probably an additional 19,712 to that project, which would reduce the portion that the housing authority has to put towards that project next year. And CD community development property rehab was approved at 227,745. And I thought maybe if you want, you could make it an even 240,000 if you wanted to add $12,255. But these are the only projects really you can play with in terms of that, and as I say, the increase above what we were working with over the past few months is $39,890, so. I sent out my memo so people know, I mean, CD, admin could go up, we could reduce the program income with a return to loan amount. The Rosewood Manor, of course, like I said, that the housing authority could reduce the share that they have to come up with, which would be a tad under $60,000. And community development property rehab, the program manager, and we've seen it ourselves. The office has seen an uptick in applications, and he feels that they're returning to pre-COVID levels. So an infusion of funds might help the program as well, but that's where it stands.
Excellent. Are there any questions regarding the allocation recommendations? The director's.
Just any reason why we wouldn't go to a full fund at the 250 for the community development property we have? Any particular reason?
You know, I think, sometimes when you work with budget figures, you like to have good numbers, and I think in being, equitable to the housing authority, I thought that, bumping them up and giving them the lion's share of the funds might be a way to go. And, CD property rehab, 240,000 is a good amount of funds, because they haven't been funded at that level in a number of years, so I thought that would be good.
That's actually true.
Yeah.
Mary? I have just one technical question. Specifically with Rosewood Manor, because their initial request was only 200,000 and we gave them the 200,000 of their initial request. Is there any sort of issue here? I understand from your email today, and thank you for that clarification, that the total project was estimated to be quite a bit above that.
Right.
So this 19,000 is certainly going to help with that, but there's no issue with regards to giving them more than they initially even requested.
Well, they let, in their application, they said the second phase would cost $279,696 based on their architect coming up with the 2 phases up. So, they had requested, if they could have got that whole amount, I'm sure they would have loved that, but we decided to give them 200,000, maybe, to be fair to everybody else too. So that's why I thought that adding an additional 19,000 would be.
It's just specifically though that they only requested 200,000. And there's no issue, initially, their initial request was only for 200,000. So I'm just looking at a technicality that there's no problem with giving them more than their initial request.
I do have the same application. So,
I'm good with it.
okay.
Just want to make sure there's no compliance issues.
No, there's
Yeah, I'm just.
No issues in overfunding.
No, I don't think so. Because we didn't know what the allocation was. If they had told us April 1st, we were getting $900,000, we could have doled it out the way we saw fit based on public services being limited to 217 and everybody else getting what they could,
For paper purposes, does it help you to have any kind of trail that says they're asking for additional money, or is there anything that you want in record? Do you need any of that, or is it just doesn't look arbitrarily aligned?
We didn't know what the allocation was. They had told us the 2 phases based on what the breakdown was each phase, so I thought that'd be a good place to put the funds. I don't think it's if I was at HUD still, I'd say, okay, that's what you did. That sounds reasonable.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Any other questions? Let's have a vote on the motion. May I have a motion to vote on the allocation recommendations?
Second,
So moved.
all in favor?
Well, I just.
Oh,
Just,
discussion.
you just sit down.
Actually, goes to discussion.
We will now vote on a motion to accept the allocation recommendations. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passed. Let's move on to any unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business that the committee members, committee members wish to address? Or any announcements? Sandra, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Next meeting, next steps, what are the plans? This would actually be for both of you, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've kind of looked at it kind of basically, I mean, you still have to reprogram the COVID funds. Some people aren't spending their funds, we've been tracking people down. There's still some available, I mean, a lot was put aside for admin, but in my experience, there's not a lot of administration of these funds, you know, you spend small amounts of time on it, so there's gonna be some funds, once we know from finance what that figure is, and the program ends come August 31st, you know, because they only have until August 31st. If they don't use their funds, then we're gonna recapture them. At one point I looked at, it was about 120,000. So we'll go out for an RFP again and, you know, just cover the same waterfront to see if people want to apply for that. So we'll do an RFP, and then at some point, when we get those proposals back, we'll bring them to the committee again. I would say probably maybe late September, early October, and we can look at that, you know, and deal with that, get those people up and running, and hopefully they spend all their funds and we're done with the COVID monies, you know, so.
If COVID money isn't used, it doesn't go back to the government.
Sure it does, yeah. I
It
mean,
does.
like any federal program that HUD has, you have 8 years to spend it. I mean, originally they had these funds where within 3 years you had to spend 80,000 of it, and people just had a hard time dealing with COVID and getting their programs up and running. So that was completely done away with and waived, but you do have the typical 8-year funding level to spend it, you know, and we'd like to get them done before that, you know, so.
Any other questions? So we'll just expect to have you reach out to us at some point, late summer. Maybe early fall.
And we are gonna take this to the city council, the next step, and they will, you know, we'll do a little dog and pony show probably in about the second meeting from now, so not the June 3rd, but the June 17th, they will have it before them and make recommendations. If you want to come as chair or anybody to speak to these things, we're gonna give the nonprofits an opportunity to come, so they might get up and say, oh, why didn't they get any funds? And, you know,
What meeting is that?
Yeah, will you send us another?
Yeah.
we will, yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice to know how our recommendations, you know, how, if they, you know, go across as we recommend, or if they get.
Oh, sure, we'll put something
Because
together.
we've never, unless you go to the,
You can read the town minutes.
I could.
That's nice.
I haven't been to these things before, but it seems like sometimes they say, okay, you know, you want 200,000 and $255, and for some reason they don't give you the 255, but I wasn't at the meeting, I don't know, I mean, maybe for the sake of budgeting, you know, you want a nice round figure, but we'll find out in about a month, I guess, almost, you know, so. We'll keep you posted in the loop for the whole thing.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
I have no conflicts for the fall too, so if you need to open up on Monday and Wednesday, it's good.
Great,
So wide open in the evenings, working less,
love it.
yes.
Just take.
So if there is no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second,
Any
meeting
discussion?
adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.